Hey, what's up? This is Chosen, and this video is going to be ranking every dungeon from easiest to hardest, so let's get into it. Alrighty, so every now and then, every week or two, I like to kind of take a break from the normal content, guides, and all that sort of stuff, and do something kind of fun or interesting, like a ranking of some sorts or something. So this is just a little bit of break from the normal stuff here, so I figured it'd be fun to kind of go over all of the dungeons in the game, and just kind of have a casual discussion ranking them all from the easiest to the hardest in terms of getting to the end game, which I would consider getting to stage 15 and above, where you can get like the 6-star gear or doing the max level in the case of like all the dungeons on the left, the potion keeps and the Minotaur max out at stage 15, and then over here on the right, these four item set drop lairs, they max out at stage 20. So I would say the end game is when you can clear stage 15 of all of these dungeons, and that will max you out on these, and that will get you to the 6-star gear on these. So yeah, let's just start at the easiest. I'm going to put there's actually 10 of them, so we're gonna go from 10 all the way down to 1. So at number 10, which is the easiest dungeon, I'm gonna go with the Arcane Keep. The Arcane Keep is pretty straightforward. The boss can hit you surprisingly hard if you don't bring a character that can buff your whole party. He actually has a mechanic where he hits a lot harder on characters that don't have any buffs. So other than that, he's always void affinity, so you're never gonna have to worry about being weak against him and having to build different parties for different levels. All you have to do is make sure you have a buff on, and it should be a pretty straightforward fight for you. And then at number 9, I'm going to put the Force Keep. Some of these I can't click on because obviously they're locked. But yeah, the Force Keep, he basically revolves around just having a ton of defense. So really the only tough part about the Force Keep is being able to farm it efficiently and kill him. Worth noting, as you get to the latter stages of the Force Keep, he has a lot of defense, so bringing a defense down character can bring a lot of value. Characters like a Tyrell, a Bogwalker, a Rosin, a Bellower, things that apply a defense down debuff are going to be really strong in the Force, and other than that, it's a very straightforward fight and should be pretty easy to get to the end game. So at number 8, I'm going to put the Void Keep, which is only open on Sundays. And that makes it different from all of the other Ascendancy dungeons. It's actually only open 1 day a week instead of 2. And the Void Keep boss kind of revolves around a bunch of poisons. So if you are in a sustained battle, it can kind of snowball out of control. There's a couple different approaches you can go with the Void Keep. Either removing debuffs, because I think one of his main abilities that applies the poisons can't be resisted. So you would need a champion like a Spirit Host that removes all debuffs from your whole party. But he's a pretty fragile boss, and it goes down pretty quickly once you are focusing him. So the Void Keep comes in at number 8 and is fairly straightforward. Now, number 7 is probably the dungeon that people spend the most time in. It is the Minotaur. And a lot of people do think the Minotaur is difficult, and it is, but you can see here I'm able to farm stage 15 in 1 minute. And I've been able to farm stage 13 or 14 since, back when I was kind of first getting into raids. So getting to a point where you can do stage 15 quickly is not that difficult once you actually build the proper party of, you need a lot of HP to sustain his attack. And if you're able to just basically survive, lower his attack, buff the HP of your party, you can do a long, drawn-out, just sustained battle, and it's pretty straightforward in terms of getting to stage 15 and farming the endgame on the Minotaur. So he comes in at number 7, and then number 6 is going to be the Spirit Keep. So the Spirit Keep, the defining mechanic of her as a boss is the fact that she heals every turn, and once you get to the later stages, the heal is pretty significant. I believe it's half of her health, and then in the earlier stages it's like 25% of her health. So that's the defining factor. So you're gonna really need to bring heal reduction, which isn't a super common ability to have in the game. but once you apply the healing reduction, she is pretty easy to take down as she can't sustain, and besides her ability to super sustain, she's not all that difficult. So the Spirit Keep is going to come in at number 6. The 5th most tough dungeon is going to be the Magic Keep. The Magic Keep is mainly defined by the massive shield that she casts on herself, which when you get to the end game, you can't really just damage through it. You're either going to need to do damage that ignores shield, or you're going to have to steal her shield, or you're going to have to remove her shield. So the fact that it has a very specific mechanic that can be kind of tough to deal with depending on your champion roster is why I'm going to make the Magic Keep the toughest of all of the potion affinity dungeons. Sorry, I can't say that. But yeah, the Magic Keep is the toughest of all the potion dungeons, coming in at number 5. So now we get into the top 4, which is going to be the gear dungeons. These are obviously the toughest dungeons because they go all the way up to stage 20, and probably less than 1% of the player base is able to farm stage 20. I can't farm stage 20 on any of them, and I'm a pretty endgame player, who has summoned a ton of champions and invested in a ton of champions. So very difficult to get to stage 20 of the artifact layers here. But the easiest one out of the 4 I put as the dragon. The dragon is basically a DPS race, so you're just gonna have to, lower its defense, apply some HP burns and poisons. You just want to get as much damage in as possible. It doesn't have any minions or anything. When you get to it, you need to be able to burst it down and do a ton of damage. It does an ability where it kind of stands up and inhales, and then if you can't do enough damage before the meter goes away, it's going to drop down and flame your whole party and do a ton of damage. So the redeeming quality of the dragon is to just do as much DPS as you can. It's a DPS test / race to see if you can clear the stage in time before the dragon burns you down. So now we get into the top 3. The 3rd most difficult is going to be the Ice Golem's Peak. And the reason I put this one above the dragon is because the golem hits pretty hard and also has a mechanic that is really hard to deal with. He constantly revives his minions, and it's not like once or twice, it's like 4 or 5 times. It's like every 20% damage you do, it's gonna tick, and it's gonna cause him to smash your whole party and revive both of his minions. And his minion, one of them can apply a heal reduction, which really stings, so it can be a dungeon that's kind of tough to deal with. You can bring characters like Phoenix or Foley or something to prevent the revive. They have skills where, like, when you kill a character, it's permanent, they can't be revived. But on auto, it can be tough to get those abilities to proc at the right time and line up everything so that you block the revive perfectly. So that is why the Ice Golem is going to be one of the 3 most difficult dungeons. And then number 2, I'm going to go with the Fire Knight's Castle as the 2nd most difficult dungeon. Yeah, the Fire Knight is difficult because he heals himself, which makes a dungeon really tough. When a boss heals themselves, it's going to make it that much tougher because you have to deal with them sustaining. You can't just outlast them. And he also has one of the more interesting mechanics of any dungeon. He has a shield that you have to hit a certain amount of times to drop it, and you can't apply any debuffs or anything until that shield is dealt with. So not only do you have to deal with trying to grab like a heal reduction mechanic, he also lowers your max HP every time he attacks. So that can be tough to win a sustained battle. And then you also have to deal with the fact that you can't apply any debuffs until that shield's gone, so you have to whittle that away. So the Fire Knight, it has a lot of things going on, a lot of special mechanics, and all of that wrapped up into one makes it one of the tougher dungeons to get towards the end game. And then there is no debate. The toughest dungeon in the game, hands down, is the Spider. It's not even close. The Spider, in my opinion, should probably be reworked a little bit because really the only way to farm the end game of the spider is to cheese it. You can't just play it like straight up. You can't just bring a lot of AoE damage and clear the spiderlings, and you know, if you have a good party, you'll do well. You can't do that. The spider heals a lot, and you can't do heal reduction, which I don't agree with. I think you should be able to. I think it should have heal reduction resistance, like half the amount. So if you apply a 100% heal reduction with Cold Heart, it should be 50. Like, all heal reduction effects should be halved, in my opinion, in the spider den. Completely nullifying them just makes the spider ridiculous. And then not only that, the spiderlings, you would think, oh, just bring a lot of AoE and clear them. Once you get to the later stages, you can't just hit them with AoE and clear them. The spiderlings have enough HP to be able to survive, unless you have just some crazy ridiculous party. But the spiderlings will survive. They hit surprisingly hard. They apply poisons, and it's just really hard to deal with all of the AoE you need and the single target you need to burst down the spider through her constant healing. And she summons 2 spiderlings every single turn your party takes, and then 4 spiderlings every single turn that she takes. So you know, it just really snowballs out of control, and it's a very difficult dungeon to get to the end game on. And it also rotates affinities. It's not like, you know, the Arcane Keep, where it's the same. It rotates through like the other gear dungeons. But in my opinion, the spider dungeon is the most difficult by a mile. It's not even close. So yeah, that's going to do it for this video. You know, I hope you enjoyed it, and definitely let me know down in the comments if you agree or disagree and how you would have ranked them maybe. And if you have any questions, let me know, and I'll do my best to get back to you and help out. So, yeah, as always, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.